Today we are going to learn more about proportional relationships. Represents a proportional relationship represents a constant of proportionality. Constant of proportionality. Two things will be true about a graph that is proportional, which is what we just learned. The graph will be a straight line, which another word for straight line is linear. And the graph will pass through the origin. In a table, we want to check for equivalent ratios. In other words, in a proportional table, the ratio of y over x will always be equivalent, or constant, which is why it's called constant of proportionality. And that's when we simplify. And then what's not on here is, of course, our equations. A proportional relationship equation is y equals kx. Okay, so let's go to number 1. So number 1 says the number of miles a white-tailed deer travels is shown in the table. Complete the missing information. So according to our table, we have only 2 ordered pairs, which are right here. And so to find our constant proportionality, we can write k equals y over x. So your hours are your x values and your miles are your y values. So if I were to write this in y over x, I would write 84 over 3. And remember, this means division. So I can divide 3 into 84. 3 goes in that twice. Minus 6 is 2 left over. Bring down your 4. 3 goes into 24, 28 times. So that means that this simplifies to 28 over 1. So our k equals 28 over 1. So we're going to see if we get that same. We're going to see if we get that same with the other ratio. So this ratio is 196 over 7. So if I divide 7 into 196, it goes in 19 2 times. Minus 14, that's 5 left over. And 7 goes into 56 8 times. So we do get the same ratio. So it is constant and it is proportional. So that means that k equals 28. So remember, we have this equation y equals kx. So then now I just take this number and plug it in here. So my actual equation is y equals 28x. So now that I know that, I can finish the rest of the values of the table. So the rest of the values are, when we know this one, when hours is 1, it's 28 miles per hour according to K. And then y equals kx. Let's go ahead and write the 28. Y equals 28x. So y equals 28, and let's see when it's 2 hours. So that would be 28 times 2. That's 6, and that's a 5. So 56. And then y equals 28 times 4 is the next value. So y equals, so let's write 28 times 4. It's 2, 3, 4 times 2 is 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's 112. And then y equals 28 times 5, plugging into the equation, And 28 times 5, 8 times 5 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 4 is 14. So that's 140. And then we have 3 more. Bear with me. So then we have y equals 28 times the value of 6 hours. 28 times 6 times 8 is 48. And then 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So at 6 hours, it travels 168 miles. And then last 2. Y equals 28 times 8. 28 times 8. So that's 64. 8 times 2 is 16. Plus 6 is 22. 224. And then last one. At 9 hours, the white-tailed deer traveled. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 7 is 25. So 252. Okay. So now we have all the values from the table. So we could take that to make our graph. So remember our x value, which is this line right here, is hours. And our y is miles. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we have, I'm going to skip count by 28 because it's proportional, so it works that way. 28, 56, 84, 112, 140, 168, 196, 224, and 256. Okay, so now it's time to graph. So if we graph, we have 128, 256, 384, 4 112, 5 140, 6 168, 7 196, 8 224, and 9 252. So here, I was marking over here. Okay, so here we have our table filled out. And if we were to draw a line, we would see that it goes through the origin. Also, if I just plugged in 0 into our equation, y equals 28 times 0, that's 0. So proportionality, we can tell in different ways. From the graph, we can tell it is proportional. So we're going to say proportional up here. Proportional, but from the graph we could tell it's proportional because it is linear and passes through the origin. Okay, and then from the table, all ratios equal 28 over 1. So that's why it's proportional. And equation is in y equals kx form. Okay, verbal description. The deer travels 28 miles per hour. All right, we will move to the next one. If you have any questions, please let me know.